Good evening. I'd like to call the Newton County Board of Education February 16th meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. At this time, we would like to have inspiration by Pastor Eric Lee of Springfield Baptist Church.
Good evening to our fellow citizens and members of the school district and the Board of Education. It's my task as a spiritual leader in our community simply to cover the work of this board in prayer and also to acknowledge the loss of life in our school system over the past couple of weeks. And in that regard, I'd like to lead us in a word of prayer and a short moment of silence. Oh God, we've come not to cause controversy or not to deny constitutional rights, but we've come to acknowledge you as creator, and we've come seeking your consolation for students who have lost their lives, for faculty who have been through the torture chamber of tragedy. We pray now, God, for peace that surpasses all understanding. We thank you for the theme school. We thank you for Alcovey High School, for all of its teachers and administrators, for all those who are employed there and who are called to be educators in those facilities. We thank you for those who give oversight to this entire district, and we thank you for their presence at funerals and for their presence in the homes of those who have experienced loss. We thank you for the extension of grace, and we pray now that you would give peace and that you would give protection to all who remain. Strengthen our community like never before, and minister to the hearts of those who grieve. And the people of God said amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Could we do the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Fuhrer, we have no public participation, so we'll go ahead with the special recognition at this time, please.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we have several students deserving of board recognition, and we will start with our outstanding scientists. Newton County School System middle and high school students racked up some major awards at the recent Griffin-Risa Regional Science Fair. Overall, 36 students earned first, second, or third place awards at the Regional Science Fair. As a result, we've had to divide our recognition program into two nights. Tonight, we will honor all of our students who won first place in the Regional Science Fair. Each of them will now represent the Newton County School System at the Georgia Science and Engineering Fair at the University of Georgia on March the 31st. First, we will recognize our middle school students who competed in the junior division at the Griffin-Risa Regional Science Fair. Students, when I call your name, please come forward to accept your certificate of recognition from Mr. Almond Turner, Chair of the Newton County Board of Education. And please remain standing while I tell our audience this evening about your project. Tony Ha. Tony is a 7th grader at Clements Middle School, and he won first place in the physical science category with his project, Gummy Bear Growth Using Dihydrogen Monoxide. Elias Dietrich. Elias is a 7th grader at Indian Creek Middle School, and he won first place in the physical science category with his project, Water Rockets and Payload. Caroline Piper. Caroline is an 8th grade student at Indian Creek Middle School, and she won first place in the biological science category with her project, How Does Magnetism Affect Planaria Regeneration? Gracie Grenick and Alyssa Wood. Gracie and Alyssa are 8th grade students at the Newton County Theme School, and they teamed up to win first place in the physical science category with their project, Greenwood Cafe, Hot, Hot, Hot Chocolate. Maddie Farrell and Sarah Schleter. Maddie and Sarah are 8th graders at the Newton County Theme School, and they not only won a first place award, but also the Broadcom Masters Award in the biological science category for their project, How Best to Treat Hypoglycemia. The Broadcom Masters Award is the highest award given to middle school students at the competition. Maddie and Sarah have been invited to compete in the Broadcom Masters competition in Washington, D.C. Logan Putnam, Jared Seals, and Ian Kennedy. Logan, Jared, and Ian are 8th graders at Indian Creek Middle School, and they were incredibly successful at the Regional Science Fair. In addition to their first place award in physical science, the physical science category, they also won the Office of Naval Research Award and the Broadcom Masters Award for their project, The Age of Fuel Cells. They have been invited to participate in the Broadcom Masters competition in Washington, D.C. Next, we'd like to recognize our high school students who competed in the senior division at the Griffin-Risa Regional Science Fair. We had one student who could not attend this evening, but we definitely don't want to leave him out. Anthony Fittis is a 10th grade student at Newton College and Career Academy STEM Institute. He won first place in the computer science category with his project, Comparison of Time to Complete Floating Point, Popular Scripting Languages. Let's congratulate Anthony on his award and his actions. Elizabeth Cooper. Elizabeth is an 11th grade student at the Newton College and Career Academy STEM Institute, and she won first place in the biological science category with her project, Radioactive Repercussions. Luke Campbell. Luke is an 11th grade student at Alcovey High School, and he was, without a doubt, the big winner at the Griffin-Risa Regional Science Fair. Luke did such a fantastic job in his project that the executive director of Griffin-Risa, Dr. Stephanie Gordy, personally emailed me the day of the competition to let me know how well he represented our school system. Luke's project, testing the validity of P-dialkylin antimicrobial agent, won first place in the biological science category. But that's only one of the numerous awards Luke earned at the Regional Science Fair. He also received the Intel Science Talent Search Award and the Office of Naval Research Award. But that's not all. Each year, Griffin-Risa earns 2 direct slots to the International Science and Engineering Fair, one for an individual and one for a team winner. Luke is the very first Newton County School System student to ever win one of these spots. By earning this recognition, Luke will receive an all-expense-paid trip to Phoenix, Arizona in Maine to compete for millions of dollars in scholarships up for grabs at the International Science and Engineering Fair. And of course, as one of the first-place winners at the regional fair, he, along with the other students here tonight, will represent Newton County School System in the State Science and Engineering Fair. Congratulations. So I think it's deserving if we could just one more time congratulate all of our students who won first place at this so many award winners at the Regional Science Fair that you have to spread your recognition program over 2 meetings is a great problem to have. We will recognize our second and third place winners at our work session in March. We have one more student to recognize this evening, but before we do, I need to turn the recognition program over to Stan, Board Vice Chair, Mr. Stan Edwards.
All right. If you're wondering why Miss Fury turned the recognition program over to me, it's so she can actually take off her superintendent's hat and put on her parent's hat. So, with that, I would like for Eva Fury to please come forward. Eva Fury is a 6th grade student at Cousins Middle School, and she was recently awarded the 2016 Martin Luther King Young Dreamer Award. Recipients of this award must demonstrate an interest in fostering peace, unity, diversity, and love amongst their peers, and those words truly describe Eva. This year, Eva was selected by staff at her school to serve on the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support Leadership Team as a representative for the 6th grade. She attended a leadership institute where she learned how to utilize her skills to serve as a positive leader, and with that knowledge, she now serves as an advocate for her peers and often intervenes when someone is not being treated nicely or fairly. She has been described as a self-sacrificing and considerate of others, someone who will go the extra mile to help those in need. That was on full display this Christmas. Eva was more concerned about those who may not have enough food to eat than what she might receive for Christmas. In fact, she asked for no gifts for herself. Instead, she requested canned goods and grocery store gift cards so she could purchase non-perishable items to donate to a local food bank. This is where you get out your Kleenexes. And her love for and concern of those less fortunate also extends to those with 4 legs, not just 2. She not only advocates for the fair, kind treatment of people, but also for animals. During her free time, she makes and sells bracelets and then donates the proceeds to the local animal shelter. Her family, her teachers, the school staff, her dance teacher, and even some of her classmates have observed and even discussed among themselves how Eva Fury treats everyone she encounters, no matter their differences, with dignity and respect. At only 11 years old, she is a role model for others, and that is why she was recently presented the 2016 Martin Luther King Young Dreamer Award. Congratulations, Eva, on your much-deserved award.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Finally, I would like to ask Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Reese to come forward to accept a certificate that honors, celebrates, and recognizes Dr. Reese's contributions to both the civil rights movement and the field of education. I was introduced to Dr. Reese last October when I learned that my husband Bill worked with Dr. Reese's grandsons, Alan and Marvin Reese. And through conversation with Alan, we discovered our connection spanned more than 20 years, as I was actually Marvin's 7th grade English teacher more than 20 years ago. I had no idea who Marvin's grandfather was all those years ago, but I know for sure that Marvin's family and I were supposed to reconnect. Too many things had to be in place for that to be by chance. Marvin was a great student, and I am so glad to have reconnected with his very remarkable family who are seated in the front rows. And I very much appreciate you all being here this evening. Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Reese is the only remaining member of Selma's Courageous 8. Dr. Reese was a teacher and principal in Selma, Alabama, where he was also the president of the Dallas County Voters League and the president of the Selma Teachers Association. As president of the Dallas County Voters League, he signed and sent an invitation to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to come to Selma to lend their support to the voting rights campaign there. As president of the Selma Teachers Association, Dr. Reese signed a proclamation declaring that teachers should register to vote. He could not reconcile how African American teachers taught about voting, yet they were not able to participate in the process. On January 22nd, Dr. Reese gathered 105 teachers, almost every African American teacher in Selma, to march on the courthouse. They climbed the steps, but were barred from entering to register. They were pushed down the steps twice, the police jabbing them with nightsticks. But officials reportedly urged against the teachers' arrest, saying, if you arrest the teachers, what are you going to do with the 7,000 students on Monday morning? This was the first time in the civil rights movement that teachers in the South publicly marched as teachers. They were the largest African-American professional group in Dallas County, and their actions inspired involvement from their students and others who were unsure about participating in demonstrations. Dr. Reese's contributions were of great significance to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He led and helped to organize the marches over the Edmund Pettus Bridge toward Montgomery, including the march that took place on March the 7th. If you visit Selma, you will learn that a section of Route 80 over the Edmund Pettus Bridge is actually named Dr. Frederick D. Reese Parkway. This past Sunday, I was privileged and honored to attend Dr. Reese's retirement celebration in Selma at Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Church, where he has been the pastor for just under 51 years. I heard stories of his influence on the community as well as on new educators. His words of wisdom still resound today as he provides guidance and advice to teachers and others, particularly teachers beginning their journeys in education. And finally, I had the great fortune to visit with Dr. Reese last November, and I asked him to tell me what advice he would offer to our Newton County students, and he said, number one, remember, after even the darkest of days, there will always be light. 2, treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat people right. And 3, stand up for what is right and just, even if you must stand alone. Thank you, Dr. Reese, for all you have done throughout your lifetime. Your courageous actions more than 50 years ago have paved the road for all of us, and your work continues to be an example to our communities, our nation, and our world. And we are so grateful that you are here. It is not well known, or as well known as it should be, that it was your actions that led to all of the events of Selma. And we are so grateful that you were there to take those steps forward, and we appreciate you. At this point, I'll come forward to accept a certificate of recognition from our board chair, Mr. Almond Turner. Yes.
Well, he insists I give a word. But I am delighted to be here and to be a part of this occasion. And I pray that all that has been done in the past will somehow lead us to do those things that are right and pleasing in the sight of Almighty God. And that all men, regardless of their race, creed, or color, would have a right to participate and to be a part of the things that God has made available unto all of us. So I thank you once. I thank you twice. I thank you thrice in all the days of my life. Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Reese, we'd like to thank you for the many contributions that you have contributed to not only Selma, but the world. And you have set some great footsteps for people to follow. And you're a perfect example of wisdom, knowledge, and most of all, courage. And may God continue to bless you. Any other board members like to make any comments?
I would. Dr. Reese, I would just like to thank you, just to reiterate what Mr. Turner said, for all of your sacrifices and your courage. It's ironic that you used the word courage, because I was at an event yesterday at the Capitol for my sorority, and the focus was on elected officials and leading the way. And one of the focus that the speaker spoke on is courage, that people have ideas all the time in their head, and they say what they want to do, and they say the right things at the right time, but it takes courage to act upon the things and to make them happen and to put them in action. And so I thank you for your action. I thank you for your courage. I thank you for leading the way, the sacrifices that you made so that I could be sitting up here today. Thank you.
I would just like to acknowledge we do have some special guests here who came this evening because they knew you were going to be here. And we thank you for, we have representation from the Ministers Union, from a local community. I don't know if you see anybody else, Mr. Turner, you would like to acknowledge, but our school system staff, our principals and students who knew you would be here this evening and recognize the important contributions you've made and wanted to be a part of this evening. So we thank you, and we thank you for being here. Yes, ma'am.
On behalf of the Newton County NAACP,
There she is.
I would like to thank you, Dr. Reed as well. So, and I'm here representing Newton County NAACP, and we celebrate you as well as all of the students and everything that has happened that's moving forward as far as civil rights and equality, freedom and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, one other comment, and that is all the young people that's out here tonight, this is an event that you had an opportunity to meet a person that made a way for all of you to accomplish what you have accomplished over the years that you've been in school. And that's really something to meet someone like that. And it's very inspiring. So, again, Dr. Reese, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more.
Okay, at this portion of our meeting, this is the time that we will allow those who wish to leave. You can leave at this point because our meeting will be relatively short, because at our last meeting was our work session, and that's when we had a lot of discussion on some of the items that we are going to discuss at this time, so we probably will move briefly. So if you want to leave at this time, you may do so, but we would like for you to stay. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate, but if you can stay, because I see that Dr. Lockhart is doing a presentation on the Opportunity School District, this may be a good time for you to see this presentation.
Except y'all.
Okay.
I'm going to step down just for a second. Thank you so much.
Not a single one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. find a way to get the word out about this. Gotta find a way to get the word out about this.
Mr. Reese is Dr. Reese's son. Gotcha.
Miss Shaquille,
Yes, ma'am.
would you please tell Mr. Broderick that the gentleman that was sitting next to me that belonged to that group in Selma graduated from the University of Auburn.
Oh, really?
So not only did I have to listen to that, but the other
Miss Guthrie is back there too now.
Mike, security.
Alabama.
Security. That's my
Miss
mother.
Sharon, yes, Miss Sharon, he is still out there.
Security.
Yeah, he's right there by the door.
Security.
Public participation.
That is my mother. Security, get her, take her out of here. Just let her. I know. I try to keep her away. There's some things you can't keep her away from. Sorry.
Okay, can I get approval to accept the agenda as placed?
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Baker. They have a second. Second by Mr. Edwards. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carries. Need a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Coggins. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Lockhart?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on the operations report, there are no changes to the financial nor the operations reports.
Okay, having no changes, can I get a motion to accept under A, items 1 and 2 as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Coggins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item B,
Item B, there are no changes to the curriculum instruction technology report nor the enrollment report. I asked for us to take action on that now, and then I could provide the presentation to you.
okay, can I get a motion to approve item 1 and item 2? And after that, we'll have a presentation. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Baker. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could have someone to dim the light for us, please. There was a request for us to learn a bit about the Opportunity School District. This is a proposal that will be up for vote in our general election in November 2016. And just to give you a brief overview of what is entailed in this particular bill. This is Senate Bill 133. In this proposal, this persistently failing schools are defined as those scoring below 60 on the Georgia Department of Education's accountability measure, the College and Career Performance Index, for 3 consecutive years. Again, a persistently failing school is a school that has a score below 60 for 3 years. The OSD, Opportunity School District, would take in no more than 20 schools per year, meaning that it would govern no more than 100 schools at any given time over a 5-year period. Schools would stay in the district for no less than 5 years, but no more than 10 years, and would then return to local control. Who will lead the OSD? The governor shall appoint a superintendent of the Opportunity School District to be confirmed by the Senate. The OSD superintendent shall be a direct report to the governor. How does a school become eligible to enter the OSD? Again, a school that has earned a rating of F, assigned by the Governor's Office of Student Achievement and based on the state accountability system for a minimum of 3 consecutive years, is eligible to enter the OSD. Schools that earn an F rating for the first year will be on warning status. Schools that earn an F rating for 2 consecutive years will be on probationary status. And again, to enter into the OSD, a school must have a score below 60 or F for a consecutive 3-year period. Now, just for the stats, how many schools, if we were to do this right now, would be currently eligible? 6.4% of schools. There are 139 identified schools out of the 2,184 schools in the state that would qualify due to having an F defined as 60 for the last 3 consecutive years, and those school years being 11-12, 12-13, 13-14. The list of eligible schools will be updated by GOSA as the state's accountability system ratings are published or updated each year. So once our CCRPI scores, if they come out for 14-15, then that may change the number of schools that are actually eligible to enter into the OSD. So what happens to schools under this model? The school leadership is hired by the OSD. Faculty is under supervision of the OSD, and the superintendent of the OSD may remove part of the faculty, the entire faculty, or may keep the faculty depending on what he or she would see. The local Board of Education must fully comply with the OSD and provide the facility and funding to support the programmatic and operational needs. And again, the superintendent of the OSD governs the school and not the local board. So again, the governance would be by the OSD superintendent, and the funding would take place on behalf of the local board and the local taxpayers. There are other considerations. Make no mistake about it. This is school takeover. Throughout the 2000s, when you look at No Child Left Behind, AYP, and now CCRPI, you may have heard the word school takeover. This is it. This is school takeover. The local Board of Education control is lost. Again, the OSD superintendent can govern 100 schools at a time across the state. That's an important thing to think about, because depending on where that superintendent lives, just imagine how difficult it is to govern, say, 23 schools all in one county. Governing 100 schools across an entire state would be a daunting task. Georgia schools already have the power to be innovative. We've always had the ability to be innovative, and the recent flexibility models, such as the one which we're currently under with a strategic waiver, it has enhanced our ability to be both flexible and innovative. And the Georgia Department of Education already has an intervention model that could be used to turn around failing schools. Big question. Are any Newton County school system schools currently eligible to be added to the OSD? No. No Newton County schools have had CCRPI scores below 60 for 3 consecutive years. One school had a score below 60 in 2011-12, but that has since changed. So again, there is no school in any shape, form, or fashion close to being eligible for the OSD. But here is the important note. Since we've had the CCRPI index, this has been a moving target pretty much every year. The formulas have changed, statutes have changed, and so the issue you have is if the formula for determining a failing school were to change in the future, schools across the state, including in Newton County, may be affected if the OSD passes the general election vote. Again, if the formula changes, it could influence or affect our scores, and before you know it, you might find yourself in a situation where you may have to go into the OSD. This is what the ballot is currently designed to look like on November 8th in the 2016 general election. Shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended to allow the state to intervene in chronically failing public schools in order to improve student performance? I've attached some links here that can be provided for you. It gives you a lot of insight on both sides of the fence, so that people can make informed decisions on how to vote this general election. Are there any questions?
No questions, but if I can, I want to add some comments.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You want to do the
No,
question?
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The comments I just wanted to add is that this was a discussion yesterday, and because we video our meetings in the event somebody is watching, I do want to add some comments to highlight this proposed legislation. Number one, that this will change the Constitution. once you change the Constitution, it's very hard to get it changed again. So that's important to know. Secondly, on this, I spoke at the retired teachers meeting about 2 weeks ago, a week or 2 weeks ago, and I like to explain things plain. I think when we, one thing about how things get passed is because the language that is used confuses people. So I like to make it plain and simple so that everybody understands. And how I explained it to them was this. They meet at First Baptist Church. I work on the square. My office is right on the square. I walked from my office to their meeting. That is what I did as a local board member. I'm in the grocery store on Sundays. I'm in church on Sundays. I'm at the dance studio Monday through Thursday. Anybody knows where to find me. If this goes through, you will not be able to find a board person because they could be in Valdosta, Savannah, Rome. They will not be able to walk to you. They will not be able to meet with you. And that's something really to keep in mind, that you lose all control. You lose a voice in this. And another thing to add on it, we don't have and use currently in the PowerPoint like that, because that was another thing highlighted yesterday that we spoke about. And currently is good because as of now it's 60.
Right.
But it could change to 65, 70. So this could have a huge impact on us. And to add to it, it's important that everybody does get out about this. You know, I can't tell you how to vote up here in the meeting, but it's important that you get out and really learn about it and be educated on it, because at the same time, even if you don't have a school on the list, if they change that number and we have a school on the list, we have, and I just use the school A as an example is on the list, but you don't teach at school A, you teach at school B, and you think it's not going to affect you. Once we have to find somewhere for teachers in school A to go because they are pushed out, then that's going to impact your salary in school B because we can't pay for all of that. Right. So cuts are going to have to happen. So I like to make things plain and simple just in case somebody is looking.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, Ms. Baker kind of alluded to it in her comments, and that is the replacement of teachers if the state, in fact, do take over school. My question is, will all the teachers be removed and replaced?
It would be at the discretion of the OSD superintendent without input from the Newton County superintendent or the local board of education.
So my question is, if that is the case, how could they assess what teachers are doing a good job or not if they don't have any input and no records of any kind to evaluate the teachers?
That's a very good question, Mr. Turner.
And my second question is, once the state take over a school and it still falls into that category of a failing school, what are they going to do then?
I would like to add that you will find literature. There are other states that have done something similar to this. You're going to find some literature that will say that it is successful. You also find that the people who wrote that same literature had a stake in the game. So it depends on who you're listening to. The general consensus is that the success has been inconsistent. And so therefore, you would find yourself in a situation where there may indeed be a continuation of failure, quote unquote, under an OSD. So regardless of being the OSD or a traditional school district, you might find that you'll still have the same type of results.
I have a comment, question. One aspect, particularly, all of it concerns me, but in particular the financials. Excuse me. The financials. In essence, it said that any changes or support financially has to come from the local district. One of the reasons, one, is probably why the school is in a failure position is because of the consistent and long-term underfunding that we have experienced in the educational arena. And like that, we do have policies to address failing schools now. I find it nothing more than an additional expense on the local school board and will have no input in what's going on. I just think that's a backward approach in all the things that we are doing, especially here in Newton County. You know, I think we have a whistle to blow very loud because our graduation rate far exceeds most of the districts in this state, 83%. I mean, that's just enough to stick your chest out, if I may say. So I have some real concerns about the financials and how they'll work. And there's no pledge, as far as I know, no additional funds.
No, sir.
Sad case. Thank you.
Yes.
And one other questions that I have, and I could comment as well, but we're discussing these issues amongst ourselves, and we have nobody that can answer those questions that we need to direct them to. So my question is there someone that we can contact, not just the Newton County Board of Education, but other Board of Educations, to ask these questions, because they're the ones who are pushing it, and we don't have the answers. You understand? But yeah, I know Phil can answer these questions, but my question is the ones who wants to get these bills passed. They're the ones who need to be questioned as, you know, what the intent, you know, why you're doing this, what's going to happen if this happened. Because Phil can represent us what the law actually says. But the ones who's trying to get the bill passed, those are the ones that we have questions for, because you can't answer them.
Yes, sir. I would add that I cannot answer those questions because, again, it is in its infancy stage. This presentation was not designed to really sway a voter one way or the other. It's just to provide the facts, to inform, which is why, again, there are some links here. I would encourage on what you just said that every voter, every responsible citizen must educate himself or herself, and when the questions come forward, we must contact our legislators and ask them the very questions that you are now thinking, so that we can try to get more clarity, because again, if you want support, then you need to be able to explain exactly what you're doing. So I echo your statements.
And to add to that, may I?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. To add to that, two of our representatives, just the legislative liaison, two of our representatives actually sit on the education committee at the Gold Dome, which is Pam Dickerson and Dave Belton are both on the education committee. And if I'm not mistaken, actually, Senator Vaness is actually on the education committee on the Senate side as well. So that would mean three of our representatives under the Gold Dome all sit on the education committee. Another thing that we discussed yesterday at the Capitol is that when they were doing the language of this, just the word chronic by itself, they had a 3-hour discussion, 3 hours on defining the word chronic in the language, just on that. So, I'm sorry, Abigail, one more thing. Here is my thing, and this is just my soapbox. Just my soapbox. We continue, or not us, but those that are representing us at a higher level, a bigger level, continue to say public education is failing. And so therefore we need to cut money here and place it somewhere else, whether it's in charter schools, whether it's taking over public schools so that now we can correct them and stuff. But just using business 101. If you have a business, in order for that business to grow, to be successful, you got to buy cards for it. You got to get an awesome website. You got to get the word out. You have to invest in it if you want to see the return on your business. That's common sense. That means that in the school system, in the public school system, if you want it to grow, if you want it to get better, you got to invest in it, not cut from it in order to grow. Just my soapbox.
One question, and you may have already said this, and I apologize if I missed it, but doesn't the state already have this opportunity to go in and take over a school without having to go and change the Constitution? If there's a failing school, am I correct in believing that they already have that power, that they can do it?
They have the power to intervene, and there are different layers of intervention, but yes, pretty much already exists.
Exists. That's what I thought.
Everything we need in order to run a school successfully is already here.
And you're not aware of any time where they've stepped in to intervene in that?
Because the infrastructure has not been there to support it. But if you use the local funding, now you are finding a revenue stream in order to support it at the detriment of every other school that is in that district.
Left around.
All right, thank you.
If I may.
Certainly.
A couple of things just to keep in mind. There will be a constitutional amendment on the ballot. And it will say what's up there on the screen. And I don't know anybody that will, if they're not well educated, understand that the language that is in the constitutional amendment means a whole lot more than just checking yes or no. It does mean that the Opportunity School District Superintendent could let go all of the teachers that are in a school, and then the school district would be charged with continuing out their contracts. As you know, we sign their contracts, pretty early. In addition to that, the Opportunity School District Superintendent could also turn over the operation to a private for-profit organization. So using our tax dollars to pay a private company for profit to run, or nonprofit for that matter, but for profit. And so those are things that the public needs to be aware of. You all are elected officials. You're elected to represent your districts and at large, the whole community. And you will no longer have that opportunity. It will be gone. All of the local dollars that we've invested in our buildings will be gone. They can take our buildings and then delegate even after. If they can also disperse the school and say all of these kids should go to these different schools, and then the building is left to them to do with what they choose, which in and of itself is problematic. Those are local tax dollars that have been used in addition to state funds to build our facilities. But there is a constitutional amendment, and it will be voted on. And so the way to we need to inform people. People need to know what it really means. And then finally, the College and Career Ready Performance Index, the CCRPI, is not a valid nor reliable instrument to make a determination on whether or not a school is a failing school. It has not, as Dr. Lockhart pointed out, been in place as the same document at all since its inception. It changes from year to year to year. It's a continuous moving target, and it is absolutely not the correct document to determine whether a school is quote unquote a failing school, and that needs to be said as well. If we're going to make those kinds of designations, let's at least make sure that it's based on information that can be accounted for, and what's in this instrument is not valid nor reliable.
Thank you. Any more comments?
I have one, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. It's a question, and you may or may not know the answer to it. Are there any movements within the state currently to pro or against this constitutional amendment, one way that you know of at the moment? I mean, what's the
There are movements. Again, you have one camp that is definitely for this, and there's a belief that children in certain schools are not getting the support they need, and so there is that movement. There is also a grassroots movement or efforts on other sides trying to educate and inform so that we can make the best decision possible. I would just like to add again, as it stands today, this isn't, we're fortunate. This is not even a Newton County school system problem. Should never be a problem unless the rules change. If the rules change, then we could find ourselves with something, as Ms. Henderson Baker mentioned, once it's into law, it's difficult to come out. And so again, we already have everything we need in order to address the problems that are trying to be addressed here.
Now, once the constitutional amendment passes, if it were to pass, there's a permanent layer of bureaucracy that's created.
Exactly.
This is forever there.
That's right.
It will be a state versus local situation, state versus local.
Have you had any input or conversations how other boards of education have felt about this particular legislation?
From a third person removed point of view, There are districts that of the 139, they are in panic mode, and justifiably so.
Yeah.
There are school systems that are really, they're trying to figure out ways trying to combat this. So that's where the most of your fervor comes from. However, it's important that we discuss it because, as I just mentioned, Newton County school system, we don't have a problem right
Not
now.
yet.
Not yet. And so what happens is if everybody remains dormant, because it's just like looking at a virus in another country. It's not my problem.
Right.
But once it gets over to your country, it's your problem.
Right.
And how are you going to handle it? And it might be too late then.
And Dr. Lockhart, if I can, Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm real passionate about this. But that is how I have been explaining it just for the rest of you guys to everyone, because we have this whole thing about when it comes to voting, if it doesn't affect us, a lot of people do not go out. And we have to make people understand that this will potentially affect you. Even the discussion yesterday was even to the point that even if your school system is not on the list, how the bill is written or how it's written is that they could potentially, if they don't have enough monies from that school, use your school monies to help let's say Valdosta or Atlanta Public Schools because of this.
And if I may add, you have to think about this in a long-term perspective. So a lot of times we think of things as right now, within this next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Some of us have children who are in school right now who could be impacted by the time they get ready to graduate. So again, it's a very serious matter that we need to address appropriately.
And language fools everybody. I do know that a focus group was trying to get the language changed. That's what happened with the charter school thing. Do you want, help schools achieve and stuff? Language fools everybody. And so you gotta express, and educate people about the language in this.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say one more thing?
Certainly.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm also passionate about this, and I think Dr. Lockhart used a great example today as we were talking about this issue and our concern about the opportunity school district's impact, even not today on our district, but down the road. And his analogy really helps to clarify for people who may not understand the language. And he used the idea of purchasing a car and having a car payment. And I'm gonna just let you. I thought it made it very crystal clear.
The analogy would be, let's suppose you purchase a used car. Now the car already has some issues. It has a history, but it's your car. You make the payment. You put the gas in. You change the oil. You make all the maintenance, all of that. Well, a law comes in place where you no longer can drive your car. Somebody else, a stranger, takes over your car and is driving your car. They put you in the back seat. You can talk, but nobody's listening to you. Mm-hmm. They can decide who gets in your car, but you still have to make the payment. That's the issue. You still make the payment, but you don't control where the car goes, when it goes, who it picks up. You don't have any control of that whatsoever. That is exactly what this currently is, in which someone else would take over your organization. You foot the bill, and they tell you what to do.
Good. That's a good analogy. That's how we have to explain it. That's why I say we got to make things plain for people.
I thought it was great. It was just crystallized for everyone.
Well, I got an old cliche. It's beautiful to explain it, go after all the words to make it clear. But if all that fails and you don't understand it, you should say no.
Yes. I had a high school senior. He was eligible to vote. And that's exactly what he said. He said, if I don't understand it, it's best not to do it. But again, everybody has to take their own, everybody has to educate themselves. And that's what we do in this country. You have to educate yourself and make the best decision for you.
Thank you, Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you, Dr. Lockhart. Well done.
And I think it's important for each one of us board members to educate ourselves to be able to answer questions and explain it to people that's in our districts and other than not only just our district, anybody in general that we come in contact with, so they can understand it and explain it to them. We didn't got to tell them how to vote, but the main thing is bring some clarity to the bill. Anything else, anybody? Any other comments? If not having none, old business, we have none. We go to the new business. We have items A, B, C. You have those, Dr. Lockhart.
Okay. Actually, items A, B, C, D, and E. These are all items that we discussed last week during the work session. And if it's the board's pleasure, we could take them as one slate and vote at once.
I need
We
to,
need to, she needs to
I need to
choose.
recuse myself from item D.
Yes.
Yes, so can we just take the first
I'll just do the
three
first one.
items?
Okay. Yes, sir. Items A, B, and C. They have been they're brought before the board this evening, and we're requesting action.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Baker. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, the same? Motion carries. Okay, item D.
Item D, yes, sir. Use of facilities for community theater and musical production at East Side. This item is up for board action this evening.
Can I get a motion to approve item D, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Baker, second by Mr. Edwards. Any discussion? Having none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, the same? Okay, item E.
Item E, requested board action relative to surplus items, and this item is up for board action this evening.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve item E?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Coggins, have a second by Ms. Baker. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same, motion carries. Item F, that is an item that we need to have some discussion for the delegate and the alternate delegate for the Savannah Conference. Understand that Ms. Baker and Mr. Edwards will be attending, so which one of you guys want to take on the responsibility of being the delegate and the other one being the alternate?
I'm the delegate because I was already voted on as the alternate delegate. So so that automatically moves me to the delegate since the delegate can't go.
Okay.
So it's just now going through protocol for Stan to be the alternate.
Okay, so Ms. Baker will be the delegate and Mr. Edwards will be the alternate. Can I get a motion to approve these, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Baker and second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion carries. Superintendent's recommendation in the executive session.
Yes, sir. The superintendent recommends the approval of the personnel recommendations made during the executive session.
Can I get a motion to approve item G, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ms. Goggins. A motion by Mr. Johnson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carries. Any other matters of interest?
We have a first round of state playoffs at Newton High School. I think begins Wednesday evening. The girls first, and then the boys basketball team. They're hosting the first round.
Anybody else? Having none, can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Motion by Mr. Edwards, second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting stands adjourned.